Picture the most powerful sales pitch in the history of fraud. It isn't a promise of doubling your money. It isn't a hot tip or a can't miss stock. It's a soft, almost apologetic sentence from a silver-haired man in a quiet office. "I'm sorry, the fund is closed. I really can't take any new investors right now." That man was Bernie Madoff, and by telling thousands of people they couldn't give him their money, he stole an estimated $65 billion. $65 billion. It is, to this day, the largest Ponzi scheme ever constructed. And here is the detail that should stop you cold: Madoff didn't chase investors. They chased him. Grown men, hedge fund managers, billionaires, charities, Nobel laureates, pulled strings, called in favors, and begged to be let into a fund that, mathematically, produced nothing at all. Why? Because Madoff understood the one thing that every great Ponzi operator understands, and almost no ordinary person does. A Ponzi scheme cannot sell returns. The returns aren't real. So it sells the only thing it can actually deliver: the feeling of being chosen. Stay with me, because once you see this machine turning, you will see it everywhere, and you'll never look at an exclusive opportunity the same way again. First, let's be precise about what a Ponzi scheme actually is, because the mechanics matter, and almost everyone gets them slightly wrong. A Ponzi scheme is not a bad investment. It is not a risky bet that went south. It is a structure in which there is no real investment at all. The operator takes money from new investors and uses it to pay fake profits to earlier investors. That's it. There is no factory, no trading strategy, no secret algorithm quietly working in the background. The money coming in the front door is simply handed back out to the people who arrived first, minus whatever the operator skims. This creates an illusion so convincing it fools professionals. Early investors genuinely get paid. They cash real checks. They tell their friends. The returns look absolutely legitimate, because for the people at the front of the line, the money is real. But look at the arithmetic. To pay yesterday's investors their promised profit, the scheme needs more money today than it took in yesterday. And to pay today's investors tomorrow, it needs even more. The scheme doesn't grow like a business. It grows like a debt, compounding, accelerating, demanding an ever larger flood of new cash just to stand still. A Ponzi scheme is a machine that survives only by eating faster and faster. And that single fact, the desperate, permanent hunger for new money, is the reason exclusivity isn't a marketing choice. It's the fuel line. To understand why, we have to go back to the man who gave the scheme its name. In 1920, in Boston, an Italian immigrant named Charles Ponzi discovered a quirk in the international postal system. There existed a thing called an international reply coupon, a voucher you could buy in one country and redeem for stamps in another. Because of currency differences after the First World War, a coupon bought cheaply in Europe could, in theory, be redeemed for more in the United States. Ponzi did the math and announced a stunning opportunity. He would turn this postal arbitrage into profit, and he promised investors a 50% return in 90 days. Then he cut it to 45%. 50%. In weeks. The banks were paying 5% a year. Here's the thing, the postal loophole was technically real, but only in tiny amounts. To generate the returns Ponzi promised, he would have needed to physically buy and ship and redeem hundreds of millions of coupons, a logistical impossibility. He knew it. So he never actually did it. Instead, he did the simplest thing in the world. He paid the first investors with the money from the second, and the second with the money from the third. And it worked, spectacularly. In a matter of months, Ponzi took in an estimated $15 million, the equivalent of hundreds of millions today. People mortgaged their homes. They lined up around the block. And that frenzy is exactly where our real story begins, because Ponzi's crowds and Madoff's velvet rope are two solutions to the very same problem. Here is the trap that every Ponzi operator eventually faces, and it is a beautiful, fatal one. If your only pitch is high returns, you attract a very specific kind of customer, the greedy, the reckless, the one sniffing for something too good to be true. And those customers are dangerous. They ask questions. They compare you to other opportunities. They chase the next shiny thing, and worst of all, they pull their money out the instant something looks off. A scheme built purely on the promise of huge returns is a scheme built on a stampede that can reverse at any second. Charles Ponzi learned this the hard way. His outrageous 50% promise drew enormous crowds, but it also drew newspapers, auditors, and a public that couldn't stop talking about how impossible it sounded. The very loudness of the returns is what killed him in months. And this is the lesson that the truly great operators absorbed. The returns can't be the product, because loud returns invite scrutiny, and scrutiny is death. So the master con artist performs a kind of alchemy. He turns the volume of the returns down, not up. He offers something that looks almost boring. Steady. Modest. Consistent. And in exchange for dampening the greed, he sells something far more addictive, something that switches off suspicion instead of triggering it. He sells you the sense that you are special, that you have been let inside. That is the pivot the entire con turns on, and no one performed it more perfectly than Bernie Madoff. Madoff's genius was that he inverted the entire logic of the hustle. He did not promise to double your money. He promised something that sounded responsible, a steady return of roughly 10 to 12% a year, calm and consistent, in good markets and bad. Not dazzling. Just impossibly, suspiciously reliable, a smooth line climbing gently upward, year after year, never lurching, never losing. To a sophisticated investor, that smoothness was the seduction, the market lurches, and Madoff's numbers never did. But the returns were only half of it. The other half, the real product, was the door. Madoff built a velvet rope around his fund and made getting past it feel like an initiation. You could not simply call and invest. You had to be introduced, recommended, vouched for by someone already inside. And even then, Madoff might turn you away, might sigh and say the fund was full, that he'd see what he could do, that he couldn't make promises. Think about what that does to a wealthy, competitive person. Being told no doesn't repel them. It inflames them. Suddenly this isn't an investment decision, it's a status test, a country club membership, a rope they must get behind. And every person who finally got in felt not like a customer, but like a winner, someone who had passed through a door that stayed shut for lesser men. That feeling is the most valuable thing a Ponzi can manufacture, because it does three things at once, and each one is lethal. Let's open the machine and look at exactly why the velvet rope works. Gear 1, exclusivity silences your skepticism. When you have to fight to get into something, your brain quietly reclassifies it. You stop asking, is this real, and start asking, will they let me in? The moment the question changes, the con has already won, because you are no longer auditing the opportunity, you're auditing yourself. Gear 2, exclusivity manufactures social proof, the most powerful force in fraud. If getting in requires an introduction from an existing member, then every investor personally vouches for the next one. The victims recruit each other. Madoff barely had to sell, his own investors did the selling, dragging in their friends, their families, their charities, their synagogues, and country clubs, a pattern investigators call affinity fraud, where the trust of a tight community becomes the weapon. Gear 3, and the cruelest, exclusivity buys silence and patience. A person who fought to get inside an elite circle does not want to leave it. They don't yank their money at the first strange rumor, that would mean giving up their hard-won seat. And crucially, they don't complain loudly, because complaining means admitting they might have been a fool. Remember what a Ponzi needs above all else: new money in, and old money staying put. Exclusivity delivers both. It turns every victim into a recruiter and a guard. The returns get people to the door. But it's the rope that keeps them from ever walking back out. Every Ponzi scheme carries the seed of its own destruction, and that seed is the arithmetic we started with. The machine must always eat more than it did before. As long as new money floods in faster than old investors want to cash out, the illusion holds, sometimes for decades. Madoffs ran for years. Some believe the fraud stretched back into the 1970s or 80s, quietly compounding until it had swallowed tens of billions. And then came 2008. When the global financial crisis hit, terrified investors everywhere needed cash, even Madoff's chosen ones. The requests to withdraw came pouring in, billions of dollars of them, all at once. And Madoff faced the moment every Ponzi operator dreads: more money trying to leave than there was money coming in. There was no secret vault. There never had been. The steady 12%, the smooth climbing line, the account statements his clients treasured, all of it was fiction, typed up in a back room, printed on paper, representing wealth that did not exist. When he could no longer meet the redemptions, the machine simply stopped. In December 2008, Bernie Madoff confessed to his sons that the entire operation was, in his own words, one big lie. They turned him in. The largest Ponzi scheme in history collapsed not because someone was clever enough to catch it, regulators had been warned for years and waved it off, but because the flood of new money finally, inevitably, ran dry. When the dust settled, the numbers were staggering. The fabricated account statements claimed roughly $65 billion. The actual money real people had handed over and lost ran to something like 17 to 20 billion, savings, pensions, endowments, entire charities erased overnight. Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison. He died there in 2021. And Charles Ponzi, the man who started it all? He was deported, drifted through more schemes, and died penniless in a Brazilian charity ward in 1949, with enough money for a modest burial and nothing else. Two men, 30 years and one ocean apart, running the exact same machine, and the machine has not changed since. Look at the Crypto Founders Club, that's invitation only. The private fund your acquaintance swears by but can't quite explain. The investment group that makes you feel lucky just to be asked. The mechanics never age, because they aren't financial, they're human. So here is your immunization, and it costs nothing. When an opportunity's main selling point is how hard it is to get into, when being allowed in feels like a privilege and asking too many questions feels rude, stop. A real investment wants your scrutiny. Only a con needs your reverence. The velvet rope was never protecting the opportunity from unworthy investors. It was protecting the lie from anyone who might look too closely. So tell me, have you ever been offered a deal whose real pitch was exclusivity, not returns? What did the rope feel like from the inside? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.